Hey guys, today I welcome Kevin Downs. Kevin is an actor, writer, producer. He's the co-founder and chief of production and distribution at Kingdom Story Company. He serves as a producer on the new holiday classic, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Kevin, welcome back, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Good to be here. How's it going?
Man, it is great. Right in the middle of Christmas. So thank you for taking the time today, man.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, you too, buddy. All right, so you guys struck a chord with this one. The movie has done really well at the box office. People are really responding to it. Has that surprised you guys?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if it ever, you know what, it always surprises us because I think I think we go into movies without any expectation whatsoever. So,
Yeah,
it's a pleasant surprise, when people enjoy it as much as they do, and we're loving the
yeah,
feedback that we get. For people to be able to witness the nativity story that is presented in the best Christmas pageant ever. Sometimes for the
yeah,
first time, I think is really a special thing. I
yeah,
mean, I think this year especially, we could use a movie that kind of is the reason to celebrate Christmas in a fun and heartwarming
yeah.
way, and that's for the entire family. And I think the movie does that.
I do too, and I think that with a lot of Christmas movies, it's always like this is the reason for the season. This is what Christmas is all about, right? But this one is really what it's all about.
This one,
Um, uh,
yeah, it definitely delivers the goods.
Absolutely. Well, man, obviously the book has been around forever, beloved by generations. I love that you guys got the rights to it, and were able to bring it to the screen. How did it come to you? How did you guys? How did the book come to you, and how did the production come about?
Yeah, no, it's Dallas Jenkins who directed the
Yeah,
film. He this has been a lifelong dream of his to direct this book. He's been a fan of the book for a number of years. So have I. So about 4 years ago, he called me and just said, "Hey, I got the rights to this. Would you be interested in making it with me?" And I said, well, "Of course. Let me see if Lionsgate would be interested." And they
yeah,
were, and so we worked on the script together, and the script came out great, and found a time in his busy schedule and ours, and it all worked out really great. And the movie is so proud of it, proud of the cast, and most
yeah.
importantly, proud of how people are responding to the film. And hopefully, the goal is always that one of your films becomes kind of a classic in years to come. I think this one could become one of those Christmas classics. People want to revisit it every year. Hey, let's kick off the Christmas season with best Christmas pageant ever, and why not?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love that you got Dallas to do it. Definitely with the Chosen and his schedule on the Chosen, and then his slate of things coming out with expanding the Chosen universe, the franchise. So it was awesome that you found a spot. Great cast in this one too. So director and cast. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, always tough to have kids in your movie because you never know what
Yeah,
you're going to get. But all
yeah,
these kids from top to bottom, there wasn't a problem child out there. They were all really, really great, and they all wanted to be there, which was really great. And they tried really hard to do their best, and they did.
yeah,
Our Imogene Herdman, played by Beatrice Schneider, her first
yeah,
big movie, and wow, did she bring it? Really, really hard role to execute, mainly because of the turns that the character takes with kind of being the heavy, but then kind of having this soft emotion at the end. And just so
hmm,
proud of her. She did such a great job. So not easy roles, not easy to be funny. Sometimes kids push it too hard to be funny, and
yeah.
it doesn't come across really great. But this one, they just had to be themselves. That's what we pushed them to do, is to be themselves because they were kind of funny characters to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. So how do you navigate? Obviously, there's a balance between hitting the Christian audience and a wide net for a film like this. How do you guys balance that?
Yeah, in this particular movie, it's based on a book, so we wanted to be true to the book so that people weren't disappointed that we're big fans of the book. So that was first and foremost. Thankfully, this book was, a little bit light on its pages from 1972. And we filled in the gaps in a way that seemed organic to the book. but yet also moved the pacing along and were found it to be interesting. Dallas had a specific style he wanted to shoot, which when he pitched us that, I'm like, okay, I like that because it'll actually make it accessible for all ages, simplistic in its format, but also just really accessible and easy to follow because he didn't want to get really tricky with it, which I totally agree with. And then you go and you attempt to pull it off. You never know what you're gonna get, but thankfully it did. It came together really nicely, and the biggest gift for us is just how audiences respond.
So some of the we serve a lot of churches and ministries, and the churches that we serve, budget constraints is a real thing. We want to be excellent, but may not have the budget to have all the tools and bells and whistles and be at the level that we want to be. Everyone has a budget, right? So when balancing budget constraints, how do you prioritize, let's say, production quality elements uh, that will effectively serve the story well? How do you guys balance keeping the production high and the everything within budget?
Not easy. Been doing this for 25 to 30 years, so it's
Yeah,
been really, really hard. You really want to make the dollars stretch and go far. Every film, that's a challenge because whether it's inflation or just the cost of goods continuing to rise in certain things, and so it's the job of a producer, like a general contractor. You're just kind of trying
yeah,
to put the elements together. Um, this one, it worked. It just worked out really well. I mean, it was actually a fairly smooth shoot. We had some weather issues, but that was to be expected when you go up to Winnipeg, Canada, in the middle of winter to shoot this movie
mm-hmm.
out. But again, the cast, everybody just really played their role really well. We didn't want fake snow, so we went up there to get the real snow and got plenty of it. And uh, yeah, it's a balancing act to have the budgets and those
Yeah.
things kind of come into play.
So I was watching like a behind the scenes on Home Alone, and they actually moved production companies. You might know this, but they went from I think it was a Warner Brothers picture to a Fox picture, and it was because of budget. It was because of just a few $1 million difference. And boy, did Warner Brothers miss out on on that one. But I wanted to ask you this because I know a lot of ministry leaders, especially, think, oh well, the big churches have the money. These production companies have money, and so I think from your perspective, it's interesting because I think what I found, even at every level has a budget at every point, and you kind of have to work within that. So maybe encourage ministry leaders a little bit on budget might not be everything.
Well, you always have the same budget issues no matter how much you spend. I mean, you
Yeah.
think more money actually solves the problem. It doesn't necessarily solve the problem. My first film, very first film, 1997, I think the year was, our budget was $20,000. We went over budget, and it was very stressful. And those aren't normal budget numbers. Now,
Yeah.
our water budget might be $20,000.
Right. Right.
And so, for best Christmas pageant ever, we shot the movie for about $14 million and marketed it, for another, it's probably the same, 14 million or whatever. And so it doesn't necessarily solve the problem, but you got to learn how to manage the money appropriately. And so
Yeah.
my encouragement to ministry leaders is like what we do. We pray. We say, get down on our knees and pray that God will guide us through these challenges, and a lot of them that we don't know the answer for. And so to be able to live in the moment, not to look out so much for tomorrow and predict tomorrow so much, but be able to rest in Him to provide the answers for today.
Yeah.
And typically doesn't mean there won't be challenges, but we certainly we can look back when we apply that process and go, okay, I think God spared us. He saved us in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
Right.
Because it's not easy. It's not easy to come in on budget, under budget, when you've got a project, no matter how big or how small. But more money doesn't necessarily solve the problem. I know it's like, okay, that's easy for you to say. No, I've been there.
Right.
When handed budgets, John and Andy Irwin and myself, our first film together, a movie called Mom's Night Out, the budget was $4.5 million, and that was
Yeah.
it. And if we went over, it was on us, and it was stressful and it was hard. And so if we had had 15 million, it wouldn't have made it any less stressful. It would have been the same situation. And so we just had to figure out how to do it with what we got.
Yeah. On our platform, we talk a lot about that and how your visuals matter. And you guys have really made some great films over the years, and you've gotten better along the way. I was just talking with Andy Irwin just a couple weeks ago about this, about how you guys have improved, and even like faith-based films, the production quality has just gotten better and better over the years. So talk about that. Why do your visuals matter? What's some things that you guys have learned over the years?
Well, visuals matter because the goal is to be able to make the stories that we're creating on par with what everything else is out there in the theater. And so, but that takes time. That's not just like all of a sudden magically, you know, tons and tons of money appears. We've got to be able to prove to the powers that be that write the checks for these things that there's an audience that will actually show up and come see it.
Yeah.
And so we're proud of the work that we've done to be able to grow in the last 10 years from, sub $5 million budgets to, now 15, 20, 30 million, depending on what the project is. And the goal is to continue to, because at the end of the day, and the reason for this is we value the money that people are spending to buy a movie ticket. And so if you're buying an $8 ticket, a $10 ticket, some people are buying $18 ticket, depends where you live. We value that, and so we want to try and put the best product forward with the budget constraints that are handed to us, and that means a ton to us. So yeah, that's really it. I mean, if people didn't care about production values, and we'd probably stay in that 5 million range, but people do because they're spending their money to buy that movie ticket. Or now that Christmas Pageant is out on, you can rent it or buy it for home viewing. Same thing. We value that. We want you to feel like, okay, this was a good value, and we're glad we spent the money on it.
So let's bring that down to ministry leaders. Why should ministry leaders care about the quality? Does the quality matter when it comes to churches or ministry work? How can we use visual media to share the gospel? Does
Yeah,
that
I
does
mean,
that
it's
quality matter?
yeah. So for me, when I say we value your ticket dollar, it's the same thing. It's about consumption. And so if you value people's time, if you value people's energy, you want to put your best foot forward, because God also would expect that from us, to be able to make the best quality of the work that we can create that ultimately glorifies him and puts him first and foremost. So in our ministries, that's what we're doing, so that we are presenting the work, the gifts that God has given us in a way that glorifies him to the best of our ability. And so I think if just to be able to do that, and have that mindset, it's like, I am doing this because God has commanded me literally to put my best foot forward as best as possible, because he gets the glory no matter what happens, no matter what the outcome is, he gets the glory.
So let me ask you a weird question, maybe. How do you define quality? Like 10 years ago, Mom's Night Out, some of your early stuff, would you say this is quality in the moment? Or how do you know that you've gotten better over the years? How do you know that the quality has gotten better? How do you guys rank that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know if we internally rank it. I mean, we're given a budget, and then you go out and you create based on the budget. If we
Yeah.
have certain dollar amount for gear rentals, whether it's camera and lights and all those things, the hope is that the quality increases as we're spending more, and usually it does, because
Yeah.
you're putting it in the appropriate line items. But I don't know if we sit back and say, "Yeah, look at ourselves. We did a
Right.
great job here."
Right.
So,
Well, I want to get at that because I think that ministry, I mean to like land on money so much, but I think that ministry leaders, we just want to encourage them that visuals are, well, maybe speak to that. Are visuals the medium in which we consume the most content now? And why does that matter?
yeah, I think so. I mean, look, if visuals, and again, I speak from me for experience, if
Yeah.
visuals uh, help somebody from an emotional standpoint to be able to engage in the story that we're telling, then we want to try and put our best foot forward in creating those visuals that
Yeah.
will emotionally engage, so that people can have a clear head and think on their own 2 feet about the story that they're involved in, which is their story in this moment for what they're seeing or listening to. And I think it goes the same with in church and ministry and whatnot. Like if we put together a really poor service, whether that's in taped medium or even live, and just didn't really put the effort into it, and to me, that is a representation of God to that person, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, why should I invest here? I mean, that doesn't really move me in that way. And so, again, not that our outpouring effort is necessarily the reason that the gospel moves, but I think we have a
Right.
responsibility to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be able to put our best foot forward for the gifts that He has given us.
Yeah. Good. Well, man, thank you so much for your time. You mentioned that the movie is out now on digital. Tell us where we can get it. How can we stream it? I'm
Yeah.
surprised it's out this Christmas. Y'all got it out fast.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, that is the amazing thing of movies nowadays is there's short theatrical windows. Now it's playing in theaters
Yeah.
still in over
Yep.
1,400 theaters right now, but if people want to watch it in home, you can Google Best Christmas Pageant Ever. It's up there on Apple, probably Amazon, wherever you rent digitally movies. It is out there on all those platforms right now.
Yeah.
And or you can go take a group to the theater if it's playing near you in a town and
Yeah.
enjoy what the movie offers for the holidays.
Let me hit you with this last question for you. How important is it for believers to go support movies like this in the theaters? How
Yeah,
much does that matter to you guys?
yeah, I mean, it matters to us because this is, believe it or not, theatrical movie tickets are like voting ballots to Hollywood. And
Yeah.
so when Hollywood sees that a certain number of people have actually bought movie tickets, that will gauge whether or not they want to invest more into these types of stories. And for us, that's how it is. So no matter what happens in the next 5, 10 years, 5, 10 months, whatever, with the movie, it's all about the theatrical experience because it's about forecasting. Because movies don't quickly get made. I mean, it takes a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years to get these things made. And so a lot of it's just forecast and digital analysis and analytics and all those things. But that's why we encourage people to go. As far as if they want to help and get their voice heard as consumers of product, like why doesn't Hollywood make more movies that I like and you like the movies that we make, then just go buy a movie ticket. It's really as simple as that. Or take a friend and go buy a movie ticket because your voice and it really does make a difference.
Yeah. Good. All right, guys. Best Christmas Pageant Ever .movie is the website, or you can Google it. Kevin, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate
Thank
the time.
you. Yeah, Merry Christmas.
This has been a podcast presentation of Church Visuals, executive produced and edited by Carl Barnhill, title and show graphics by Angie Lomas. For more resources to help you visually communicate the gospel, visit churchvisuals.com.